What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's new episode. UFC 317 was a banger, bro. Every fight on that card was good. Honestly, from the beginning all the way to the end. We're going to start off with the first fight of the main card, Payton Talbett versus Felipe Lima. Now, this was a great fight for Payton Talbett. This was on short notice as well. I believe 2 weeks short notice. They weren't really prepared to fight each other. Both up and coming prospects. Payton Talbett's lost once. Felipe Lima has lost once. So great talent going into this fight. There was a few holes from Payton Talbett's loss against Raoni Barcelos earlier this year. I believe in January. He was taken down a bunch of times. We saw a huge improvement in Payton's performance when it came to takedown defense. He was taken down 3 times, but was able to get out of bad positions and to reverse those positions. Ended up getting some ground and pound on top, winning rounds 2 and 3. In his post-fight interview, said that he has more of a full scope of what it means to be a fighter, going through the wins and the losses. There was a lot of momentum going his way. That loss against Barcelos did kind of slow down the hype train a little bit, but just like anything else, after a win, people just start coming back. He landed some good strikes. Spinning wheel kick was clean. Takedown defense was clean, and some significant strikes on the ground that did do some damage. So great win from Payton Talbott. First fight of the card was a heater. Now, we had a lightweight bout, Beneil Dariush versus Hinata Moanu. There was some questions on how Moanu was going to bounce back after his loss to Islam Makhachev that ended very early in the first round via Darce. Beneil Dariush hasn't fought in a couple years, so we really didn't know how he was going to bounce back, how his reaction time was going to be. He does look a lot older than he is. These guys are the same age. They're 36 years old. In the first round, it felt like Moanu was going to seal the deal with this significant strike right here. I thought this was going to, end in a TKO. It didn't. Dariush ended up coming back, surviving that first round, and then rounds 2 and 3. Really in round 2, I feel like Dariush was able to gas out Moanu significantly. Dariush had some great ground control, was able to establish dominance in the fight. Great win for Dariush. I'm not sure what's next for his career. Both of these fights on the main card going to decision, but they're entertaining nevertheless. Now, we go into the fight of the night, Brandon Royval versus Joshua Van. This one was a coin flip right from the beginning. Brandon Royval has been in the top contention for a championship fight, ranked number 1, going against the up-and-coming prospect Joshua Van, who has been on a tear. He's been tearing up the flyweight division, very young, 23 years old as well, and he's been, going into these wars. So we didn't expect anything less going into this fight, and it was back and forth from the very beginning. Now, this wasn't like a full aspect of mixed martial arts where they're going to the ground, they're going up top, they're wrestling. This was a striking back and forth. There was over 400 significant strikes in this fight. Now, think about that. 216 for Brandon Royval and 209 for Joshua Van. So there was a bunch of strikes going down. There was one knockdown at the very end of the last 10 seconds of the fight, which pretty much sealed the deal for Joshua Van. Honestly, I think the fight would have went to Royval if that did not happen. So it really shows how razor thin the margin is to win or lose a fight. But like I said, that last 10 seconds knocked down Brandon Royval. Even on the ground and pound, Joshua Van was just like trying to hit Royval, but he wasn't hitting anything. He was like hitting air. But that knockdown was enough to get Joshua Van the win. And in the post-fight press conference, he said that he wanted to do a standoff with the winner of Alexander Pantosia and Kai Kara-France. So right away, 23 years old, back-to-back wins. He just fought 3 weeks ago and on short notice with a broken toe as well. So this guy just had a Michael Jordan flu game performance and definitely earned that title shot with Alexander Pantosia. Alexander Pantosia versus Kai Kara-France. I'm not going to say, I was surprised from this performance. He doesn't really give out a feeling process for the fighter. He starts off very aggressive and takes the fight to the ground, locks up a body triangle, and just like his fight against Kai Asakura, ends up in a rear naked choke. Now, the thing I did enjoy from seeing Pantosia hit that rear naked choke was that Kai Kara-France had a good defense, taking off that top hand multiple times. And then, as a champion would, they would make adjustments in real time. So that he kept on taking that top hand off like 3 or 4 times. And Pantosia ends up grabbing his own head to make it harder for Kai Kara-France to remove it, and ends up sinking in that rear naked choke. Now, Pantosia, dominant champion. Doesn't seem like there's anybody who's like giving him a run for his money. This match with Joshua Van is probably going to happen maybe later this year, early next year. And the only thing that I'm thinking about is how is Joshua Van's ground game, because Alexandre Pantosia is one of the best practitioners of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in this sport currently, and it seems like that is going to be a way to victory for Pantosia. Now on the feet, I feel like Van could definitely throw them hands, but it's definitely going to be tough for anybody going against Pantosia, just because he has won 4 championship matches and he's on his way to solidify himself in the UFC Hall of Fame if he continues on with this run. Now, speaking of Hall of Fame performances, Ilia Tapora and Charles Olivera. Now, I want to go into more detail with this main event just because of how big of a fight it really was. Going into this fight as a Charles Olivera fan, it was scary just knowing how Ilia is known to knock legends out. He's knocked out Volk, he's knocked out Max. Now going against Charles Olivera, a fighter who is known to get hit during the fights. Now he's known to bounce back during adversity when things get tough. Olivera is gonna figure out a way how to get the win, but going against someone like Ilia Tapora, it was definitely scary. So going into this fight, I really didn't know how Olivera was going to game plan, and actually it shocked me how aggressive he was in the beginning of the fight. So we're going to do a little mini breakdown of the fight, what I thought, but just know I was absolutely devastated after seeing how the fight ended up happening. So let's do a mini breakdown and let's check out how Ilia Tapora ended up getting the dub. All right, so my heart was thumping getting ready for this fight. I didn't know what was going to happen. Ilia is known to have this knockout power. Charles Olivera, well skilled in all aspects. But the thing that stood out to me the most here is how calm the fighters looked in the beginning leading up to this fight. Both of them looked locked in. Didn't seem like the nerves was getting to them very much. And they both knew what they had to do. Ilia Tapora, going for this double title, so much on the line, and here we go. So the fight starts off very aggressive. Charles establishes some good calf kicks, getting the distance for hitting Ilia's calf. Ilia does a good job of setting up these punches here. He does a lot of hesitation, just like a basketball player, but I feel like right here is where Charles did the most damage in the fight with this elbow, but also at the same time, I believe it cut Charles above the eye. That's where you saw him wipe his right eye here, and then Charles shoots for a double leg and then goes into double underhooks, where I feel like Ilia was probably the most uncomfortable in the fight right here, but Ilia does a good job switching his hips and getting on top and forcing Charles to play his close guard. Ilia opens it up, going right into side control, setting up a crucifix position, and this is where Charles Olivera is able to go to a deep half transition right into a leg lock that was defended really well by Ilia. Didn't really seem like he was in much danger at all. Charles is doing his best to try to control the leg, but the fight goes back up to the feet, and we know what happens next. Charles is trying to do his best on the feet. Ilia does a great job setting up these punches, forcing Charles to close his guard. He hits one down to the body, one up top, and then a 2-3 to end the show right there, man. Now, this felt like my heart just exploded, just seeing Charles go out like that. Did not expect for it to just be that quick, that fast, and for him to call it in the very first round. Double champion, and just him making history. Paddy comes in talking his mess, gets in Ilia's head, and it feels like we have a next matchup brewing up. Now, I don't think that they're going to give Paddy the title shot right away. I mean, I think they could probably do a title contender shot for Paddy Pimblett versus Arman Tsarukyan, or Paddy versus Gaethje, or Gaethje versus Arman, just depending on the scenario. And the winner of that fight fights Ilia Tapora. Now, I hope Charles Olivera is in good spirits. It's going to take a while for him to bounce back. I do think that it is going to be a while before we see him in the octagon again. Just, hopefully he takes some time off, focuses on himself. Just like when Max Holloway knocked out Justin Gaethje, Justin just played golf for like a solid 8 months, and until he got back into the octagon. Not sure what's next for Charles or Ilia. Not sure what's next for them, but if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like down below and stay tuned for more. I hope you guys have a great week ahead of you guys. Be safe. I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. We out. Peace.